right, we're in Module 2. We're all done with Module 1, so I'm just using one page to write the word Module 2. It just gives me a reminder. And we are moving on to Module M-O-D-U-L-E. That was crazy spelling. Module 2, Lesson 1, on today's date, which is the 21st, 9/21/20. Okay, and today's lesson is all about multiplying factors of 10. We're multiplying factors of 10. Okay, so you're going to see that today's lesson is actually kind of a review of what we've looked at before, but we're looking at something like this. 4 times 30, 4D times 30, 40 times 300, and 4,000 times 30. And we're going to take a minute to see how all these are similar. So if I start with just the 4 times 30, if I wanted to find the product, what we talked about in the previous lesson is all I really need to look at. If I split this up, I have 4 times 3, and then I have to do times 10, right? So my 4 went here, my 3 went here, and then this 0 really means it's times 10. So I just took my 30 and I turned my 30 into 3 times 10. So I ended up with 4 times 3 times 10, right? And if you see how when I take the parentheses out, then I can move them. It's easier for me to do 4 times 3 and then do it times 10. So it's pretty easy in my head for me to figure out 4 times 3 by just looking at my multiplication chart or counting by 4s. 4, 8, 12. 4 times 3 is 12. And then I'm left with 12 times 10, which is 120. Now I can use that same strategy for the next one. Here, I still have 4 times, 10 to get 40 times 3 times 10. And then I can just rearrange it and do what works for me. 4 times 3 times 10 times 10. And now when I look at it, I go, oh, I have easy groups. 4 times 3 I know is 12. 10 times 10 I know is 100. So that gives me, when I'm looking at 40 times 30, I had 12 times 100, which gives me 1,200. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you start paying attention to the zeros, you'll see that there's even less math involved. So if I was looking at this one, if I were to break that up, that would be 4 times 10. That's what I broke my 40 into. Times, I just brought this times 3 times 100. And then I'm going to rewrite it to the easy ones. 4 times 3 times 10 times 100. And I have 2 easy ones. So what I'm looking at now. So once again, on the 4,000 times 30, I have the, on 4,000 times 30, I once again have 4 times 3. Oops, I meant 4 times 1,000 times 3 times 10, and I can rearrange it to the ones that work for me. 4 times 3 is 12. 1,000 times 10 is 10,000. So my answer becomes 12,000. But I'm going to show you the secret that makes all of this much easier to understand. The secret is that you really only need to pay attention to the zeros. So if I was looking again, let's try another set of problems. 60 times 5, 60 times 50, 60 times 500, 460 times 5,000. You could break them apart in the same way that I showed you up here, where you just look at what's happening. Like on the first one, 60 times 5 would be 6 times 10 times 5. I just broke it up, right? Which would give me 6 times 5 is the easy math to do. 6 times 5 is 30. Times 10 becomes 300. But I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you that what you could really look at is the basic multiplication in there. The basic multiplication is 6 times 5 equals 30. And then I need to add on as many zeros as were in the original problem. Now, this 0 is not part of these zeros, okay? So 30 is just the basic fact. And then I'm adding these 2 zeros because there's 2 zeros here. So 2 zeros in the question gives me 2 zeros in the answer, which then makes all of it a whole lot easier. 6 times 5 is 30. That's my basic fact. And then I have 1, 2, 3 zeros. I'm not going to count the 0 from the 30 because that's my basic fact, and I can't count the 0. But I do know that it's 30,000. On this next one, 6 times 5 is 30. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, became these 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this was my basic fact. Now, if you were looking at how that looks in the problem set, I just want to show you that your problem set has module 1 is when it says 5.1 up in the corner, and module 2 is when it says 5.2 up in the corner. So your one problem set has both of them in there, and we're just going to lesson 1, which happens to be on page 49. Lesson 1 shows you those same basic things. So 23 times 20, they just want you to think that all you're really doing is 23 times 2 tenths. Oops, I've got 23 times 2 tenths. So 23 times 2 is the only basic fact you have to do, which maybe you need to stop and do over on the side. 23 times 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4, right? So I have 46, but it's tenths. So I put on my 1 0.